The first time I experienced that social paradigms of perception mattered was in kindergarten. I was 3 years old, and the reason why I remember is because I did not suit the social parameters of the other children that I was with in school. I didn't look the same, my ethnicity was different, my religion was different, and that was my meeting with racism. That forged me. And I remember the emotions that it created. It created a lot of sadness. It also created a lot of anger, but most importantly, it made me question a lot. What it made me question was where this came from, because this bullying was not only in kindergarten, it remained until I was done in this school where then I graduated at 18. The parameters of this racism was also the education that was gotten from the parents. I mean, children are innocent, they're not necessarily knowing all these things. And also, I read this research this other day that says that children that are bilingual, which we all were in this school, have less stereotypes. What it did to me afterwards was just that I had the need to go for knowledge. I could have gone down a lot of different roads, much darker roads, but I chose the one that was about knowledge. I wanted to understand the mechanisms behind. And so, I thought to myself, what is it that I can study that can make me understand the human being the best way possible? I went for medicine, because my curiosity was, how can I get the understanding from a microscopic level until a societal level? While studying, I was lacking the societal level, so I was engaged in a lot of organizational work. I started traveling a lot, and I started giving trainings, because I saw that there was a lack in healthcare when it came to the understanding of how healthcare was actually linked to peace and conflict and human rights. A lot of people would say, well, that's obvious, and a lot of people would actually say that it's not that obvious. And with a lot of other students, we were serving the purpose of giving trainings to healthcare personnel and having them use compassion at the core of their work and engaging with human rights and engaging with conflicts. And on the other hand, it was getting to conflict areas and using healthcare as a door opener to be able to work with the other issues that were on the ground. And while I was engaged in this work, I got to travel first from Kenya for an African regional meeting, and then to Peru for the regional meeting for the Americas, and the next step was Jordan. While I was in Peru, me and some friends, after having done all this work, decided to go visit the Machu Picchu. It's a world wonder, right? And so we were climbing, and there is this mountain that overlooks this whole secret city of the Incas and everything. And when I was on the top of that peak, at the edge, the next thing that happened was that I was rolling down the other side. And I had actually death staring me in the eyes. What I remember is a lot of drama, a lot of pain, a lot of blood, and all of that. But most importantly, it brought me to become a patient. While I was the patient, I got to see the flaws of the healthcare system from the other side. That did a lot to me. From there on, I went to Jordan, and actually, here is the other side of the flaws of the healthcare system, not only in the meeting with the patient. I was wrongly diagnosed. The doctor in Peru thought that I had a sprained ankle, and arriving to Jordan, the doctor there found out that I had multiple fractures. And that was some time after, so it could have gone wrong. But in all of this, I luckily survived, yeah? That is the most important. And then I came back home here to Oslo. But that was just the beginning, because what happened was that I had another perspective. And I felt that my world was collapsing, like this edge that I was on the mountain, and that gave me another perspective and was the most powerful paradigm shift. I came home to family, friends, studies, and nothing was working the way it was supposed to. And it was actually quite of a dark moment. But it was that extremity that made me realize that, okay, I can stay in that darkness or I can do something about it. And I decided, and there was this sense of urgency and this need for knowledge that made me choose that I would go for peace studies. Peace studies was the thing that was gonna give me this more holistic perspective that I was searching for, this view that I got on top of the mountain that permitted me to see like the entire perspective, through a study, through more knowledge, through all the elements that plays in and everything that was going through my mind. And what actually peace studies for me is represented by this ancient story, a Sufi story, about an elephant and some blind men. Maybe you've heard of it. So the way it goes is that there are some men that are all touching different parts. And so one is touching a trunk, and the other is touching the tail, and the third one is touching the leg, and they're arguing, they're really arguing. And they go like, no, this is how it feels, and this is what it is. And it's not until there's another person that's standing a bit further away that tells them, you are all right, and you are all wrong. You are touching the parts of the same thing. And that's also when they realize that they're blind. The reason why I like this story so much is it's a timeless lesson of the importance of a holistic perspective. This also brings me back to all the lessons that I had to go through in my life to get this holistic perspective. Everything since childhood. I mean, it's an extreme, and this thing with the accident and a near-death experience is another extreme. But it laid the foundations for me to understand interculturality, interdisciplinarity, and even the international aspect. So how does that all make sense in my life? Like it was said, I'm an entrepreneur. So my entrepreneurial way of using these elements is by creating curriculums. It is by creating and designing trainings where I bring in people from different disciplines, artists, doctors, teachers, and you would not even imagine the beautiful aspects that come up when you have people that complement each other, and when they're discussing important issues and global issues, for example, and how necessary this complementarity is. Because at the end of the day, we're all codependent. And that has really laid a foundation. Another thing that is very important to me is to participate in global conversations about global challenges. And it would seem logical that in global challenges we need to actually address them with a global mindset, but that's not always the case. One positive aspect is that it's beginning to be the case. And you might know, when we speak of global challenges, it might sound really big, right? So I'm going to take one concrete example. The UN has written down Millennium Development Goals. One of them is to promote gender equality and women empowerment, one that is very close to my heart. When I address this issue, I often hear people talking about, okay, so it's about the legal aspect, it's about participation of women, it's about salaries. All of these are valid, very valid. But what I miss in the conversation sometimes is the contextualization. Who are these women? Where do they live? What is their faith? What is their culture? What are the things that are surrounding them that might not make the solution you're creating miles away to be the best one for them? And how about letting them into the conversation about their own faith? And fate, sorry. That was actually a lapsus. But yeah, these elements are extremely, extremely important. The other thing, now, see, the world we live in is a big, but at the same time, very small global world. And the statistics from the UN of 2013 says that there are 232 million migrants, which means that if you stay in the rigidity of your borders and you think that what is happening in the other side of the world does not have an effect on you, you're very, very wrong. There are people that are moving all over. And even if sometimes some people have this thing where, oh, it's political, so it doesn't concern me, we are facing climate change. And the new migrants that are arriving are climate change migrants. Or you in this room might become one day. And then what? Right? So I want to challenge you with one thing. It is to think outside of your box and to get to know someone that is different from you, and to think of what are the social parameters that you bring in when you evaluate what that person is for you. The mechanism of inclusion and exclusion. Is it age? Is it race? Is it ethnicity? Is it religion? Is it class? Is it sexual orientation? What is it you create in your analysis of that person, and what does it give you as a result? And then take one that actually you have difficulties with and get to know them. Get to travel, and not a 5-star resort kind of travel, but with the local communities, with a conversation with the people that are living there so that they can tell you what their reality is, and not necessarily that you arrive with your perception of what their reality is. And last but not least, try to take a challenge that really, really bugs you, and where you have a mindset that is, it's either or. It's right or wrong. It can't be anything else, like very dichotomy-oriented mindset. Take that challenge and try to add on other alternatives and other nuances, and try to see for yourself what that does to you. Thank you.